Hey, welcome everybody. It's time for another episode of Driven by Design. The one show, maybe the only show that shows you the future of transportation, one conversation at a time. With our conversational car designer, Brian Thompson. Hey, Brian.
Howdy, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. We have an extra special show today. We are broadcasting live from California and India. So we are 12 hours ahead and 12 hours behind at the same time. We have Gagandeep Rehal from Minus Zero Motors today. And I'm really excited to talk about this with you, Gagandeep, because your company is developing self-driving cars, but for India. And that means there's a lot of different requirements for what you're doing. Gagandeep, welcome to the show.
Thanks a lot. It's my pleasure to be here. Yeah, really excited.
I'm proud to have you here. I'm delighted in this world we live in where we can do stuff like this. Tell me a little bit. So before we jump into it, tell me a bit, what is your role at the company?
So I'm CEO and CTO. Yeah,
okay.
I handle all the technical aspect, both the AI part and automobile part. Yeah.
Excellent. And so tell us a bit about Minus Zero Motors. I work a lot with startups that are doing everything from the technology involved to the, actually building a car. What is your end game? To create an automobile or to create technology for the cars?
So yeah, in the end, this is self-driving is not something that can be solved by one person or one company. So it's like a collaborative game. So Minus Zero would play the role as the technology developer and the deployment company. But the manufacturing part will have a partnership with an OEM. And that is what this calls for, a collaborative effort of all stakeholders.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And so where are you in the process? Have you designed the car yet, or are you in the process of developing that? Where are you in that?
Yeah, we have developed around most of the self-driving technology on the software side. We are now working with the hardware integration and all. And that designing part is also in progress. We'll be ready for market in 2023 with level 5 autonomy.
Understood. So in the design process, are you actually having an OEM design the car for you, or are you creating a theme, a design, a concept, and then working with an OEM to fabricate it? And I should clarify for people who don't know, OEM just basically means original equipment manufacturer. So that means a car company, a household name car company.
Yeah, basically partnership with the OEM is very vital. Number one, for this manufacturing part only, we'll be giving them the designs of the entire car and they will be manufacturing that. And obviously, OEM comes with a certain trust, consumer trust.
Yes.
And that is very vital to build consumer trust in the people for self-driving cars. But half of the time they're like, will it be safe or not? And that is a very vital problem.
Right. Will you co-brand with an OEM, or will it be branded Zero Motors? Minus Zero.
We'll be operating as robotaxis only in form of shared mobility, much similar way to how Cruise and Waymo are doing, right?
Yes.
So yeah, it will be a strategic partnership with an OEM, but what will be the branding strategy, that comes when we are sitting on the table. So it will be a little tricky to comment on that right now.
And is this excellent? Is this a company that you yourself started, or did you come in as CEO and it was started by investors or other entities?
No, we started it together. Me and my co-founder. We started in around May last year.
Excellent.
And we formally came into business in around October last year.
Excellent. Okay, so this is really a heartfelt passion project for you.
Right.
That's excellent. I love when we get guests like you, because you can talk about why you're doing this. Before the show started, you had mentioned a bit about driving in India is very, very different from driving in the Western countries. Talk a bit about how you would have to talk a bit about that and why India is such a great testing ground for autonomous driving technology.
Right. See, normally a self-driving car, if you take any structured environment where everything is rule-based, it's comparatively the cost of probability of accident and any risk involved is very less, because the rule is simple. The car has to drive following the rules, right? But now comes the traffic like India, where anything can happen on Indian roads, right? The people might not follow rules. There are cases of rash driving. Animals, stray cows and dogs might come on the road anytime. Roads are broken. There are no proper lane markings. And, this is very unstructured. Like, you can't predict what will happen on Indian road. So
Right.
that's why for testing level 5 autonomy, which we proclaim is the highest level that anyone could ever achieve. So in that sense, India becomes the toughest testing ground. And they often we remark in India, if any vehicle can handle Indian roads, it will be able to handle any kind of road in the world.
Right.
With
It's
zero
sort of like
risk
if you can
involved.
make it here, you can make it anywhere. Is kind of the
Right.
premise. And for our viewers who may not know, so there are different levels to autonomous driving. Level 1 would be something like a ABS brakes, meaning something that's taken over control of the car but executing your intent. All the way up
Right.
to level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. At level 3 or 4 is where you have the Teslas, the self-driving cars that still have a steering wheel. When you get to level 5, it means it was designed as a robot that drives itself, and there's no interaction between the guest and the
Right.
vehicle, meaning in the sense that there's no steering wheel. Is that correct?
Exactly.
Excellent. So now you're in the process of creating this car. I know you can't tell us a lot, but I noticed on your website there's a photo of a Nissan 370Z. Me being an ex-Nissan designer, I spent a long time there. Is
Right.
that a clue that there's a tie-in with Nissan, or is that just a placeholder?
No, it is just a placeholder because we are still finalizing the entire dynamics of the vehicle. But yeah, that was just a placeholder. But yeah, we'll be having a sedan type car only.
Oh,
Right?
okay.
And that will be without steering wheel. It will like the structure would be the seats. Both the seats are facing each other.
Excellent. So you have carriage seating for people at home, which means that the people inside will face each other, no steering wheel.
Exactly.
And you're looking to enter into this sort of owned vehicle market, or is it a ride share type?
Ride sharing.
Ride share.
Shared
Excellent.
mobility is the future. Half of the time,
Yeah.
vehicles are parked in a garage, 95% of the time. The cars are meant to be driven 100% of the time. So why waste that 90% of time sitting in a garage or something? Let the car drive out on the road, right?
Yes.
Basically provide luxury to the consumer at a reduced cost of ownership.
Absolutely. Yeah. You're basically giving mobility to people who couldn't necessarily do it. Now, I love the energy and the attitude you have behind it. And I think because I live in this world, it's not a foreign language to me. It's something, it's the water I swim in. But for people watching that are still skeptical, what would you say to that? Let's put it into a real world context. Some people will say, oh, I think the younger kids coming up now, this isn't an issue for them. They will be so used to this, they won't even think about it.
Right.
But for my generation, maybe you're a little younger than me, and obviously older than us, people are a little sometimes to be afraid of this technology. What do you say to people like that to help them understand what it is that it does?
This is actually a very good point, right? Normally, often people think that, okay, if you build the technology, everything will be solved. No, this self-driving problem is just 30% technology. Then comes legal regulations, obviously, consumer trust, right?
Yes.
There are a lot of aspects to this problem that has to be tackled. And for consumers, the biggest challenge is, for each self-driving, the need of the self-driving is that we need to reduce accidents, because normally most of the accidents happen due to human negligence. Someone is drunk, or maybe like he felt sleepy in between and the car crashed, right? So autonomous vehicles basically remove that human negligence from the equation completely, right? Obviously, during R&D development, there might be certain accidents or something, but the end product will be more safer than a human driver could be, right?
Yeah, I think a great analogy. My little dog is making an appearance here. Just have to acknowledge him. Hi, Lou. One of the analogies I love is that, like, in a car has only been around for about 70 years, right? It's not really that long in terms of our human history of need to move around. But for a long time, we used horses, and a drunk cowboy at a bar could get home on his horse because his horse knew the way.
Right.
But today we have drunk driving because there ain't no horse involved, and it's sort of like the AI is the horse, but it's the computer now.
Exactly.
Find its way home. Yeah.
And how many people could access, right? People with disability who can't drive, they can access this technology, right? As you said, the drunk people will easily get past because they do not have to drive themselves. And then obviously old people who have difficulty in driving. So even those segments of the community who might not be able to have good access to this mobility, as per now, they will also have equitable access. So that is what we call diversity, right?
Diverse access. Yeah. Gagandeep, let's switch gears a little bit. No pun intended, since electric cars don't have gears. When you think about this project and where you were before you started it, talk to me about what you've learned and talk to me about why you guys started this company. That's a big undertaking. Talk to me about that. Yeah.
So basically, it started as a research paper. I have been into the AI industry from quite a long time. So currently, the simple rule in AI is that to make it more accurate, you need to collect more data, and that is what every company is doing. Whether it's Google for its search engines, they are collecting user data over and over, or whether it's Waymo, Cruise, any company, they have collected million miles of data, right? And that is a simple rule. But thing is, data collection is a very costly game, right? How much data will you keep collecting and annotating that data and all, right? And that is a very hindrance in expansion also. Let's say a certain company needs, let's say X company needs 20 million miles of data to drive in one country. For expanding to other country, they need to collect 20 million miles of their kind of data, right, to have the same accuracy. Yes. So this approach is basically wrong. You can't keep on collecting data. That is like cramming data. You are making AI cram data. I'll give you an example. When you were a human baby, no one showed you 10,000 images of a bird to make you know that there is a bird in front of you, right? You had this idea, okay, bird can fly, it has two wings, and you had seen a couple of birds, and with that little information, you knew, okay, there is a bird, right?
Yes.
We as a human, that is nature-inspired AI, we can extract maximum insights from minimal amount of data. So that was what our primary USP is, AI less dependent on data. And self-driving car was the first application that could be easily implemented with that. And that drove us to build this company out.
I love this. Literally, I love the bird analogy. We are all getting ready to fly here. So that's very exciting. Gagandeep, talk to me about Indian design. So I, just as a preface here, when I work on a project, I'm often taken to another country that I've never been to. And that means that I have to spend a time researching to understand the values. So let's say for something like Embraer, if I was working on an executive jet, something I did a few years ago, I went to Brazil. You know, Embraer is the flagship of Brazil. I learned about Brazilian design, Brazilian culture, what their values were. Talk to me about what makes Indian design unique to Western design. What are your influences? What are you looking at for inspiration for the aesthetics?
Right. See, normally Indian roads are equivalent to what you call off-terrain roads, right? As I said, normally if the roads are broken at most of the places, there are potholes, or let's say, right? So normally you can compare it to an off-terrain basically road. So like you have to drive, there will be a lot of bumpers and all. So that thing has to be incorporated in the hardware design. Normally, let's say in US, basically many of the cars have very low ground clearance, but that doesn't work in India. In India, you need high ground clearance because there are certain things on the road which can just strike the bottom of the car, right? Then obviously suspensions have to be even better for Indian cars. Normally, let's say, I would give a simple Lamborghini, a car like that couldn't be driven very properly in India. And there was one case also, I think when Obama visited India, there was one case that his car basically stuck on a bumper and it kept on moving because it had very low ground clearance.
You know, that's funny. A lot of culture shows itself in the stance and the posture of a car. So, you know, people sometimes wonder, why do French cars sit at an angle and German cars sit flat, right? French cars sit at an angle because in World War II, their roads were destroyed and they needed something that could bounce over all the bouncy roads. Well, Germany didn't have beat up roads, right? So Audis and BMWs all sat straight down early on. French cars still sit kind of in an angle because of their history. So
exactly,
what I take away from that is that Indian cars have a bit more of an aggressive stance, a bit more capability. I love that.
And this is even point in let's say if there are a lot of speed breakers and you have camera sensors basically doing all the perception part for self-driving, you can imagine if a car basically goes over a bumper or let's say on a broken road, the camera will also shake. It will deteriorate the quality of the image feed, right? And that also has to be tackled, that cameras are stable so that they have a continuous steady feed so that there is no loss of accuracy.
This is fascinating stuff. I would love to dive deeper into this. If people do want to learn more about you, how do they find you, and can they reach out to you specifically?
Yeah, I'm much active on LinkedIn. right?
Okay.
So they can always get in touch with me on LinkedIn. I love conversing with people, and I usually often, you can find me on my weekends giving guest lectures at various colleges. I've given like guest lectures at US universities also,
And what
on
is the
particularly AI and autonomous robotics.
excellent? Where so on LinkedIn or just if you were to Google, is it? Tell me the URL or the what do they put? What do people put in to find you?
Yeah, they can just search. You search on Google Gagandeep Priyal, they will fill lot of results.
Okay, I'll
That
put
is
the
a
name.
unique name gives you certain edge in Google results.
Excellent. Well, this has been a delight. I definitely am curious. I want to learn more about your company. I'm fascinated by the Indian culture and driving experience. So that's, speaks to my heart. Thank you for coming on, and we'll definitely have you back. It would be great to have you come back on when you're able to show a property and what you and sort of translate these words into what it's going to eventually be.
Right. And even we recently became first company to test the actual prototype live on Indian road. I don't know if you guys have seen that video. We converted an e-rickshaw, which normally foreigners call tuk-tuk, I believe.
Yes.
We converted that into a driverless vehicle, and we became the first company to test a vehicle on an unregulated Indian road. So yeah, all the basically audience can look on that video. That was something very like, we kind of made a self-driving vehicle around in, let's say, I would say 50k rupees. That is like around 4,000 to $8,000.
Oh, great!
Self-driving prototype.
I'll put a link into the visual for the video so people can find it. Well, thank you very much, Gagandeep. It's a delight to have you on, and I look forward to watching your career and your star rise as Minus Zero takes on the world.
It's my pleasure. It was really great talking to you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, there you have it. Another example of why you got to tune in each and every week to Driven by Design. Broadcasting live, streaming live on OC Talk Radio. From our studios here at the University of California, Irvine's Applied Innovation Center.